Good evening, everyone. This is Random Encounter.
And this is Althena.
And we welcome you to our Post-Mortem for the Valiant Gamers. Sorry, 1 second. I thought I got all my coughs off stream. Welcome to our Valiant Gamers Game of the Month for December 2024, Shenmue 2.
Wow!
Thank you. I barely made it, but I got there.
I just have to say, I don't think I've ever seen this artwork that you selected before, and I do like, for one thing, I love the little Doolin down there.
Hey, I was wondering how long it would take somebody to notice.
But also, Rio looks beautiful.
He does. So shiny. So pristine.
Everyone looks beautiful, even Doolin.
So, when you played this game for the first time, did you play it on Xbox or Dreamcast?
I played it on Dreamcast.
So that's the rub. That's the box art from the Xbox version. That's the one I'm familiar with.
Okay. That's fair. I just don't think I've ever taken a look at like Rio's face on the Xbox box art. But yeah, no, I played Shenmue 2 for the Dreamcast because my boyfriend at the time bought me an imported European copy so that I could play it, and a certain way to mod my US Dreamcast to play it.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. You said a boyfriend. Wait, does that mean you're girl?
Yeah, it is. It does.
Okay, all right, I'm good. I promise.
Good night, folks.
Good night, everybody. That's I mean, I knew of a lot of people that imported this back in the day. I mean, I had the internet. I'm sure I could have done it. Because as we know, today is Shenmue's 25th anniversary. And 25 years ago, absolutely moved by this wonderful game that we played, and then extremely sad how a short time later, Sega was out of the console wars. And it seemed like maybe the future, not only of this game series, but Sega in general, was definitely in question. So, to actually see this finally come out, even not on a Sega system, I was just so happy to have it.
Yeah, no, we're the thing is, Grimace, you have the advantage of being just a child forever, so you have that to take comfort in. But yes, we are all old.
So very old. Yeah, I saw it on the Xbox. I don't know that I was following the news very closely for news on this game because I kind of just, there was kind of a point where I'm assumed, are we even going to get a sequel? So I was just happy that Sega stayed in the water, but to put this out was just icing on the cake. And immediately when I saw that this was coming, I was like, fuck yes, let's go. Because I had an Xbox back in the day. I liked it. I didn't love it. Like, there was a couple of games that I really enjoyed for it, but this was among my favorite games on that system.
Yes. I'm surprised you didn't replay it on the Xbox, but I don't know. I think I was right at that point where, like, I was beginning to get busy in my life, and I just was like, well, I already played it, so I'm not going to play it again. I had an Xbox. I loved my Xbox, but I just never got around to playing it.
Understandable.
I would like to address, hello, Sarah. Glad you came in time to witness that.
Hey, Sarah, and hey, Timmy.
Tim, hello. Yes, it was on Dreamcast in PAL regions. I actually had that version, and that's what I played first.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, that might have been, if not just for that business dealing between Sega and Microsoft, that may have been the only way that we would have gotten a chance to enjoy this, and I would have been happy to play it that way. I will say, though, two things I really enjoyed. One, playing at 60 hertz and not 50 was definitely a plus if you chose the Xbox route. And two, the game had this photo feature that I guess it still worked on the Dreamcast version, right?
It did, yes.
But I also imagine it would have had to save those photos on the VMU, and that would have gotten pretty slow. So
that would have, it would have eaten up the memory too.
Oh, and it didn't take much for sure between
it did not.
One game save and maybe one VMU game. You know, that poor VM. I love the VMU concept, but it was just a little bit too ahead of its time.
I absolutely adored the VMUs. I never used them like you could have like download games onto them and actually like play them as like itsy bitsy tiny Game Boys. I never did any of that, but I loved, for example, like the QuickTime events. I loved being able to like look at the controller and see what the QuickTime event was on that little screen. It was actually really helpful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I remember playing Resident Evil Code Veronica. Having your health on the VMU and not have to constantly page back and forth between the menu was good, especially when you were me and you desperately needed to get good at Resident Evil. Yeah, I think like I played a couple of VMU games on there and then the novelty was totally gone. Like I respected it, but yeah, it's just batteries were so damn expensive and I didn't have a lot of disposable income at the time. So, I was just going to make that money count in better ways. But that was the great thing about the Dreamcast is that, I mean, did you have to do a hardware mod to play PAL games? Because one of the best things about the Dreamcast was that the copy protection was so easily defeated. It may as well have not been there.
It was just a disc switching mod. It wasn't an actual hardware mod.
I think I had that very same one that I used for a little bit, and within a couple of months they had developed these they were specific programs that would take a Dreamcast executable and burn it on the disc with the bootloader already in the opening track, so you didn't have to do that swapping. They would automatically just boot right from the disc, which was pretty neat. It was a great time. I love my Dreamcast, but I hate to say it, it was probably one of the reasons that it struggled, just because the copy protection was non-existent. It was just so easy to get games, and people were because it was on that GD-ROM. And it held a little bit more data than a CD, so you would sometimes run into problems where your rips wouldn't fit back on a disc. So sometimes they would have to take the video files and lower the quality, take the audio, lower the quality, or just find other ways to scrim a little bit. But man, that was such a good time, like to try out games that I would have not otherwise maybe had the money or the opportunity to try. But it probably did not help them in the end.
Those were the days. Those were the golden days. I sound so old when I say that, but like I just remember that time so fondly.
Yeah, I grabbed a copy of Nestor DC, an NES emulator for the Dreamcast. It just fucking loaded it up with I took a disc, loaded it up with MP3s and ROMs, and I went to my grandmother's house for the summer. I was fucking set.
Yes, nice.
And yeah, that makes me sound pretty old, but that's fine. That's how it was. It was nice. Just like today, there's experiences people are having right now, and they don't know, in some ways, that they're in the good times until they're gone.
Indeed.
But anyway, so either way, whether you played it on Xbox or you played it on the Dreamcast, we have Shenmue 2, and Shenmue 1 holds a very special place in my life, so it was no surprise that immediately, as soon as I could, I got a copy of Shenmue 2 and played it. And just in many ways, like Shenmue 1, it was just more of everything that I enjoyed. And then there maybe were some things that I didn't quite enjoy. We'll get to those things here in a little bit. But what was your very first initial impressions booting this game up for the first time?
I was just extremely excited to get back in, because I remember when I beat the first game for the first time, I'm like, well, I need more of that as soon as possible. But then I'm like, when is it coming to America? And I, read all of the Dreamcast magazines, and I did all of the things that one does around the late 90s, early aughts time. And I kept on reading about how, it's not coming out. And I didn't know. I was dismayed. And I actually, in a related question, because I know that, you and I probably had the same feelings about Shenmue 2 when it came out, and then we beat that. And what were your emotions when you beat Shenmue 2?
I have a lot of thoughts. I want to just throw it on the table right now, because I've been thinking about it the entire month that you've played. And in some way, after having watched you play the game, I in some ways have mellowed, and in some ways I've doubled down, both in terms of just the good impressions that I had and maybe some of the bad ones. I definitely I have my shoebox ready to stand on, ready to go for that. And I imagine you do too. And I cannot wait to hear it because you're the only other person that loves the series as much as I do. But I hope that you guys have enjoyed watching it too, because it's been a great series of streams.
I think that this has been a really fun one to stream. I know it may not be the most fun to watch at times, but I feel like you become attached enough to the characters in the world that you I mean, maybe I'm just speaking for myself, and if anyone in chat has anything else to say, but it's just a really fun game to watch. You get involved in the story, you get invested in the characters, you want to see what happens, and you're just kind of like along for the ride, and it's a crazy kooky ride. But anyway, to I guess finish my question, it was like, when you finished Shenmue 2, because for me, when I finished Shenmue 2, I was like, well, now I'm probably going to have to wait like another year or two for Shenmue 3. And then like as the years went by, I started...
because it was an incredible ending and quite an escalation in terms of its scope. And at the time, I wasn't sure. Yeah, I knew that Shenmue and Shenmue 2 were big risky projects for Sega, and they had poured a fuck ton of money into it. With Shenmue 2, it's a little bit less extreme because they already did a lot of the legwork with the first game. I can't imagine it was expensive for the next one because a lot of the assets, a lot of the code engine, all that was just ready to go.
They really didn't change too much, just did some quality of life upgrades and made the game bigger, like just made the more areas and made everything more expansive.
It was a huge change of pace from the more idyllic and slower paced feeling that we had back in Dobuita. For sure. But also, Wondervox, I see you in the crowd. Welcome. And I'll just say this, like, spoiler alert, for people that want to hear the in-depth review, you're going to get that. I still enjoyed the game. I enjoyed it then. I still enjoyed watching it now. And I could still see myself playing it. So it's not going to get bad marks. But I have some criticisms, and I'm definitely going to throw those all on the table. But I will say this, though. Of all the emotes that we have on this channel, there's only two that I see that specifically come from games in particular. One is not a very good game at all, but this one was obviously memorable enough that we took the time to make an emote on it. Our old buddy Delin here in the chat. So if you left enough of an impression on us to make us make an emote for you, then yeah, you did something right. But you know what else left an impression on me? Yeah, exactly. I say the music in this game, and the entire series in general, has lingered in my mind for years and years. And we took some time discussing over the last couple of days some tracks that we thought were standouts and wanted to share with you as the community. So, chat, would you like to lay back and listen to some music for us for about 15 minutes? Now we do our awkward Dora the Explorer pause. We stare deeply into the souls of chat.
Let's just do it.
All right, let's go for it, guys. So hang around. Got a lovely little block of music coming at you now. lad. I need a moment to catch my breath there. Did everybody like their surprise? Oh, and Nicole can't hear me. Shit. Let me fix this.
Let's all just think about Joy and just...
There we go. You should be able to hear me now. I had to catch my breath a little bit. Are you good?
I'm good.
You need some water? Towel?
No. No, it is a little dry in here, but I'm...
Speak for yourself.
Certain places are dry, but certain places are not.
I get that.
We'll put it that way.
I get it. But, yeah, it's criminal how the game doesn't give you an opportunity to listen to that entire track. Like,
I know.
I think, just listened to it in its entirety, just getting ready for the Post-Mortem. And what a crime that is. Like, yeah, that dude goes hard. That's like Daytona USA levels of hard. There's no reason for that little Japanese man to just bare his soul like that. But man, I'm here for it.
Well, he was inspired by Joy.
Oh, I think we were all a little inspired by Joy. Can I get some Delin sounds in here? Some Yes. But yeah, good stuff. Same complaint though that I had with the original Shenmue is that trying to track all of this music down in one place is impossible.
Yes.
Even the game rips that I've seen here are missing certain tracks. Like the Wiseman's Quarter is not in the game rips I had available. Somebody took the time to put extended tracks on YouTube of like the various town music. So I had to go there to get that track, which is a shame because man, that bass line just goes hard. Love it.
Yeah. I knew you would be picking Wiseman Quarter.
For sure.
Of your songs.
For sure.
And I'm surprised you couldn't find that anywhere. I totally understand because trying to find a single track that you're looking for on the entire Shenmue series is a task, and it is a shame that it is such a task because the soundtrack is one of the best parts of the game. So
here's my question for you: does it get better with Shenmue 3?
I would say wait and see.
God damn it. It's like, it must be in their design Bible or something like that. It's like, okay, we're going to put a CD out here. We're going to put out a video here, but we're just not going to put all the music together in one place because that would be too easy.
Well, like I said, you'll have to tune into my Shenmue 3 stream to make your own decisions.
And I will.
Yes, I know you will. I count on it.
As I've said a couple of times in these Shenmue streams, I have not played 3. I guess if I'm just honest, I just didn't want to be disappointed. It took so long to get a third game out, and also knowing that this series is still not done, it has colored the way that I've seen the entire series, and I don't think that that's quite fair. So some of my criticisms will have that in mind. I'm repeating myself here. I don't think that the meta of a game should affect how you view the game itself, but it does, and I can't ignore that. At the very least, I can just be candid about that bias, right?
And I will say that is completely valid, and I see Sarah saying you'd heard nothing good about Shenmue 3. I will say right now, I think that you will probably be surprised that it is better than you're expecting. One of the, I guess you could say, mixed reviews I have heard about it, and I can tend to agree, or at least I can see and agree with what they're saying, is that it is incredibly faithful to the history of the game. But it is, unfortunately, I guess, it's not pushing forward into the future. So a lot of people feel like it just feels like an old game, which is fair because it's based on an old series. And I definitely will invite you to check it out. They did make some changes and some things that I have thoughts and opinions about. But it's an incredibly faithful to the spirit of Shenmue, and
that's such a hard tightrope to walk to. I imagine part of their motivation in keeping things faithful to not just the story of the game but the design is that fear of making too many changes to it might alienate some people, which is very well true. And then it's kind of unfortunately set them up. So much time has passed between these two games, and the expectations that people have are so high that I just don't think you're going to be able to please everybody. Sarah, I'm kind of in the same boat with you, where I didn't hear effusive praise of Shenmue 3, which all the more reason galvanized my decision to not play it right away. The biggest thing, hearing that the story is not done. If it were really high praise, I could maybe deal with that. But it's hard, especially maybe because I'm getting older. I don't want to invest myself in stories that are not complete. Game of Thrones, Song of Fire and Ice, other examples.
Don't worry, George R.R. Martin is still writing. So
sure,
put that book out any day now.
Sure he is. They're getting an office set up in his grave right now.
Yeah. So I was a Shenmue 3 Kickstarter backer. So there was no way in hell I wasn't going to play it. I would have loved it if it had been backed by not fans, but by an actual company to just be like, here, make Shenmue 3. But in this day and age, after as long as it's been, at that point, that was the only way it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Was to have fan backing. So I was very happy to back it, and I played it when it came out, and I looked at it as I was just happy to get more Shenmue.
And that's fair. Yeah.
I was going to be very sad if it was not good, but I was not. I don't want to spoil anything, but
sure. I mean, we'll have plenty of time to get there, I'm sure.
Yeah, but at the end of 3, I was not mad for the reason of being like, well, that was just a travesty and a slight to the memory of Shenmue.
Sure.
That was not how I felt. So
yeah,
that's good, I think.
Yeah, and in all fairness, we will have plenty of time to sit down and talk about the merits of Shenmue 3. The only other thing I'll say about 3 is that I wanted so badly to support it. And really the reason that I didn't support it is not that I didn't believe in Shenmue 3, because I've thought if anybody was going to bring this project to crowdsourcing and actually make it happen, I thought this one really stood a chance. But it just was more a statement about how I felt about crowd-funded projects in general, because there's been some good things to come out of them, and there's been a whole host of bad things, and just people outright being taken advantage of by false promises. So I was just a little too reluctant to back it.
I took a chance because Shenmue 3 is something that I have passionately wanted for many, many years. So
right, I feel that. And what's up, Destian? So yeah, that's all fair. I am glad though that it came out, but again, we definitely will cross that bridge when we get there. But we're still we have thoughts about Shenmue 2, so we're going to dial that back a little bit. And Nicole, ladies first, tell us a little bit about some things that you really enjoyed about Shenmue 2, both from a perspective when you first played it and playing through it again now.
So I definitely enjoyed a lot of the new characters that we met. I missed a lot of the characters from Shenmue 1. I am sad that there weren't some reoccurring characters from Shenmue 1. But I think that the scope of Hong Kong and Kowloon, as well as Bailu, although you don't really see Bailu that much in this game, I thought it was just kind of like a natural expansion from the first into the second. It felt very natural. There were plenty of memorable characters in the first one. There were plenty of memorable characters in the second one. Like, there was Goro in the first one. There was Dulin in the second one. So there was something for everyone. And there was a lot of hidden stuff that was easy to miss. But there wasn't quite as much of the, I guess you could say, hidden quests like there was in one.
Yeah.
So you could see the game form kind of evolving as Yu Suzuki kind of figured out what he was doing and what he wanted to do, and that was a kind of enjoyable thing to watch as it was happening.
Right.
But no, I loved it when it first came out. I was so happy, and at that point I was still expecting, just like I was saying earlier, I was expecting it to project kind of go into the natural progression of going to Shenmue 3 a couple years from now, whether it be on the Xbox or whether it be on the PlayStation or whatever it would be at the time. But I did not expect it to take 18 years. So
yeah.
I love the music. I love the world. I love the added gambling. But no, I also want.
No, it's okay. As we've discussed before too, you and we are low-key China nerds.
Absolutely. And yeah, I learned so much not that I learned from Shenmue, but like it really kind of helped take what I had learned and see it in a practical view. Because Rio is an outsider and he was experiencing this culture as an outsider, just like I was experiencing that culture as an outsider. But
they did a really good job at conveying that feeling of being an outsider too. Aside from the fact he seems to speak perfect Chinese, everybody understands him. Yeah. In every other regard, you do feel that vulnerability.
No, I would agree with that. And I do want to address what I was talking about during the musical interlude. I want to talk about the superiority of Dulin over Congo.
Okay.
So, first of all,
yes.
Secondly,
obligatory.
Because Congo didn't.
That is correct.
That was definitely a low point. But I remember the first time I played Shenmue 2, and I was playing the crate minigame with Dulin, and like when it pauses and you look at the screen, it says, push the crate and the number of times your partner tells you, and I'm like, why not say Dulin? Why does it say your partner? Is there someone else? There's no one else to do like crates with. And so when I didn't even find Congo my first playthrough of the game. I just never bothered lifting crates in Kowloon. And then, I was like, I wonder if there's... Oh, okay.
Yeah, if I'm totally honest, I've developed an appreciation for Dulin now, especially in light of how the community has embraced him, and he's become a mimetic living legend. And that's fine and good. When I first played Shenmue 2, I liked Dulin. I did not like the... I didn't like the nature of having to make your money by doing the crate lifting. So I think I was doing more... That's why I was pushing for you to play Lucky Hit, because even though that is tedious in its own way too, I found that to be a little bit more bearable, because it and none of those options were as satisfying as forklifting from the first game. That was so chill. I could sit there and haul boxes in a forklift all day long. But it hits a little bit different when you're constantly on edge, having to make sure you put the right inputs in, and if you're bad at it, then your acquisition of money is going to be really slow. And like you, once I got to Kowloon, I think I was probably good on money, and I seem to remember you could like fight for money, so I just did that. and
Yeah.
and then with whatever money I carried with me, I was pretty much good for the rest of the game. That being said, I have a more fond appreciation for him now. Having said that, if I had the chance to play through Shenmue 2 again, I probably would not do the box lifting unless I had no other choice.
So I like the reliability of the box lifting.
Fair.
Because at the very least you can make $60 a day lifting crates. Unlike with gambling, until you get into some of the higher lucky hit boards, like there's one in the back streets of the Green Market Quarter that you can win like $500 every. It's actually roll it on top, and you can win it, win $500 at a time, and that's an easy way to make money. Unfortunately, the move that you learn from Dulin before you leave for Kowloon, which is an amazing move, and it's one of the best in the game in my opinion.
Right.
You can't learn it unless you have no money, essentially. So I had to like find a way to like get rid of all of my money before I went through that part of the game. And then you go right into Kowloon after that, and it's like, well, I guess I'll lift some crates again, and then I'm like, oh, hi Congo.
Yeah, in all fairness, you made the right decision because for the reasons that you stated, and just the fact again, you guys, the community, really seem to have fun watching it. And if that is better to you guys than Lucky Hit, then we will do what the community wants, because having one of our members just blue screen and laughter because of it, totally worth it.
Yeah, the move is kind of an Easter egg. And I feel really, really bad that I kind of messed up when I learned the move. Is he's like, oh, you want to keep practicing? And I should have kept on saying yes. Instead of, I was just like, oh no. But then I remembered, if I keep on saying yes, he gets closer and closer to the water, and he ends up backing up and falling into Hong Kong Bay. And it's hilarious. And I feel so bad that I missed it. And I feel like I let you guys down, because it's really funny and kind of adorable.
Well, it's fine. We could always look that up after if I had known that, I would have grabbed a clip of it. But yeah, it's all good. I think we got a really complete Shenmue 2 experience between that and duck racing. You went out of your way to bring that to us too, and I appreciated that.
Yes. Oh my God, unlocking duck racing was hard. That was hard enough. Then getting your own duck was a complete bitch too. But and then I feel bad for you guys, like subjecting you to the duck racing music over and over and over and over again, because it's a cute little song, but like it can definitely grate on you after the 80th time of listening to it. As I ground up the duck. That sounds weird.
We don't do phrasing around here. The duck is in your arms like, wait a minute, what?
But yeah, no, as I got him to go fast enough to be able to win. But it's a really cute little, and I didn't want to leave it out because I thought it was such a good part of the game. It was such a nice little side Easter egg to the game that I had to include it in my playthrough.
Yeah.
So
well,
I love that the duck talks.
Yes, and the duck's got these like clever little lines too that just make you giggle. And if you don't giggle, then you're wrong. Watch it again until you laugh, because it's funny.
Yeah. But only I keep on getting away from Dulin, and I just want to say this. As I mentioned in chat during the musical interlude, in the Shenmue 1 Post-Mortem, I mentioned that I was looking forward to bringing Shenmue 2 to everyone because it introduces one of the most wholesome gaming characters in my opinion, in gaming history, which was Dulin. And one of the reasons why I think he is superior to Congo is because although Kongo's supervisor is far superior than Dulin's supervisor, Dulin has such a wonderful spirit. Like he's always encouraging. Like whenever you do things successfully, he always says things like, "We're working in perfect harmony. We make a great pair." And Congo's like, "Okay, let's get the next box." And it's just like, eh. And I just really loved it was infectious. His like his very positive attitude, not big attitude, and I love him. He's a wholesome little being.
Yeah, it's kind of the difference. It's the difference between working with somebody that really loves their job versus somebody that's just really just doing a 9 to 5 and is just eager to get home. It's like, I get it, but I definitely prefer working with a Delin versus the alternative. And let's face it, sometimes I'm that alternative, so I get it.
And I have one more thing to say, and we can move on.
Sure. Thank you for that. Really adding to the discussion here. Yeah. So, we're low-key China nerds. Chinese history is something you and I, a common interest that we share. And Shenmue 2, if you find China at all fascinating, you're going to love that aspect of this game. And I was here for it. In particular, looking into Kowloon. Kowloon is so fascinating. I encourage you, if you've never read into Kowloon, lose yourself in a Wikipedia rabbit hole one night. I promise you'll be thankful. It's a really fascinating history of how a little Chinese fortification just turns into a monstrosity of codeless building that just for the sake of it. And it's wonderful. It's probably for the best that it's gone, but that little time and place that was there was just such a fascinating microcosm of culture. What did you think of Shenmue's portrayal of Kowloon?
Well, I remember when I first played Shenmue 2 and I went to Kowloon, I was immediately just taken by the concept of Kowloon. So I went down that rabbit hole and I did a lot of research about it. Also, interestingly enough, there is a Chinese restaurant on the way to Boston from Maine, where I am, that is named Kowloon. And
is it like a Chinese restaurant built on a pizza place that was built on a tax preparation and it's just kind of ramshackle in its presentation? Because if so,
I really, 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 really wish it was.
Oh man!
But it's actually a really cool tiki place, which makes no sense because Kowloon is not in any way Polynesian. But anyway, it's a really good restaurant.
Nice.
And I just, every time I see it, I'm just like, oh yeah, Kowloon. That being said, I did a lot of research on it. I find just the concept of it fascinating and how it really came to be, and how when Hong Kong was owned, or owned quote unquote by the British, it was just kind of like a little lawless no man's land, and that's really kind of helped it become what it became. And that's actually another thing about Shenmue in its completion that I have like a mini gripe about, is that they don't really address politics at all. And that's one of the most important things about Chinese history, in my opinion, is like the politics, whether it be the People's Republic of China, the Republic of China, the Qing dynasty, all of the different dynasties, the different periods, and the colonial occupation in Hong Kong. And that really added a lot to what made China so fascinating, and they just kind of gloss over it in Shenmue, which is an interesting choice. I guess they probably did it just to be less controversial. I don't know. I don't really know why they do that, but that's just something I know.
That's interesting. Okay, so I'm hashing that one out in my brain, and I'm thinking I can see where you're coming from. I have to wonder, right? This weird Japanese national who shows up and is causing trouble here surely would arouse the suspicion of the local police and maybe a party member. It's like, what the fuck is going on in Wanzai and in Kowloon? Surely that might have arisen something, but that's never discussed. Ryo he has enough to worry about here. That would have probably, been a little bit extra, but I'm not really sure. It would have been more interesting to be able to touch on it in passing, at least just acknowledge that this is a thing and maybe how this affects people. I'm just not really sure how it affects Ryo and his tale, and that if Ryo would even, as a Japanese national, would he even be able to appreciate it? Would it have any relevance to his overall goal of seeking revenge?
Yeah, and I agree with that. We'll have this. So I'll have more to say about this when we play Shenmue 3. Just because the first part of Shenmue 3 takes place in Bailu Village, which is where Shenmue 2 ends.
Yep.
Now, Shenmue 2 was in Hong Kong, which was at that time occupied by the British. It was not occupied by the People's Republic of China, so there was
That's true.
There was very little communism, and
so I guess my point should have been like he would have maybe caught the interest of the local British magistrate or something. I don't know. It just seems like that would have been something to touch on for sure. Yeah. But nevertheless,
I guess, going into Bailu Village, from everything that I've seen in my exploration of Chinese history and how it has been over the past 40, 50 years, is not how I imagine Bailu Village was. Maybe Bailu was just too remote in the mountains, so they kind of had their own little system, and it wasn't like touched by the People's Republic of China really because it was just too remote. But it does not seem like a communist impacted society. Anyway, we'll get to that when we play Shenmue 3, but I have thoughts about it because I'm a China nerd and I talk about things like that. So
I guess so. I just think like if I'm a writer and I want to write about a story that takes place in China, I'm already approaching it from an outsider's perspective. These are Japanese developers writing a story about a culture that they maybe have a little closer connection to than we do, but still it's far enough away that I imagine maybe there's enough on their plate to worry about conveying. They've got this story thread of Ryo seeking revenge and all these people surrounding him to worry about. You do want to take care maybe to not overburden your story with extra details than you require. And I will say that Shenmue 2 in many regards feels like a distillation of all these disparate gameplay elements in the first game. You know, refined, narrowed down, and a little more tightly integrated in many ways. And in some ways, Shenmue 2, while expanding its scope, also cut the fat a little bit.
Yeah. You're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong. I'm just a nitpicker because like you, I am a history nerd.
Sure.
So
and I'm not saying you're wrong either. Like I get it. Like having a little bit more details help. And surely this would have affected. It just would have been interesting. Would it have affected Ryo in any way? But I guess I guess we won't really know until hopefully one day the story concludes. So
just even some propaganda posters on like the walls would have been like a nice little touch.
So with all of that out of the way, the ending was. I don't know. I shouldn't have been a surprise, but I found it to be a little bit of a surprise. What did you think about it?
I think the thing that surprised me the most was I went through the first game and into the second game thinking that Londi wanted these mirrors because, you know, when you bring the two mirrors together, it does the thing and the demons will open up the heavens, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yeah, right. It's probably just some power struggle thing. But then at the end, when the sword starts like floating and sparkling and you're just like, shit, there's like actually magic. And where did that come from? So that was definitely a big surprise for me.
You know, Grimace, I do my best to not think about the Double Dragon movie. That's the first time I've thought about it in a long time. Yeah. I guess I don't know what I expected because there's got to be something special about these mirrors that a man is willing to kill another man for it. And this seemingly cycle of revenge that seems to surround them. So there has to be something significant. It can't just be, you know, petty squabble perpetuated, right?
Right. Well, yeah, it's true. And I imagine that it's definitely something. But towards the end, when you do finally talk to Yanda Zhu, and he's like, well, why did he kill my father? And he's like, the same reason, you know, you're looking for your revenge is because he thinks that, you know, Iwao killed his father. So like, that's enough to kill a man. And if he can get a powerful mirror while doing that, that's, you know, all the better. but I just did not expect, the first time I saw it anyway, I didn't expect there to be that much like literal magic.
No, I'm with you. I'm totally with you there. That's why I was thinking, okay, there's got to be something here, but I was not expecting a metaphysical, magical unfolding quite like that in front of me. I kind of thought it would be maybe a little bit more subtle, where like there is something that is to these. You know, there is an air of mysticism that kind of hangs far in the background of Shenmue 1 and a little bit closer throughout Shenmue 2, but then it really just hits you in the face there at the end. And that's the last thing that you see for like 15 years. And
18 years.
What do you do with that?
Yeah, it's a struggle. That's why I kickstarted Shenmue 3.
You had to know. Well, I thank you for your service and your duty of bringing us a little bit closer.
It's fine.
Even if not all the way. So, I guess the last question I have for you is, what did you not like about Shenmue 2, especially when it concerns the first game?
Well, I feel like the combat was a little bit harder in the second one than the first one, because there was really only one place in the free quest to practice your moves, and that was just to constantly spar with the Tai Chi guy. Every time you pass through that quarter, the park, and Carmine Quarter. Anyway, in Shenmue 1 you could practice your moves a little bit more, where you didn't really get a chance to practice your moves in Shenmue 2. But to be fair, they didn't hit you with a 70-man fight at the end of Shenmue 2. They just ended.
Just a 75 QuickTime event.
Some bullshit QuickTime events. So let's talk about the QuickTime.
I want to hear it, but I have to get this out of my brain before I forget it. It's almost interesting, a parable of Shenmue and Shenmue 2, how it represents stages of growing into your adult life, whereas Ryo had plenty of time in 1 to not just explore what was going on and get a lead on his father, but he had time to practice. But I felt like once he hit China, he's got to survive. Like, he's committed now. He can't just go back. He's in this. And in a way, Shenmue 2 almost kind of captures that feeling of like becoming an adult and you've got some serious responsibilities. You're in over your head and you just don't have time. As much as you would love to practice, like you got to make that money and try to...
But as he's reminded in Shenmue 2, that is one of the voodoo, is to practice every day. So you have to kind of have that balance.
Parents! Indeed. Indeed. So anyway, I had to get that out of my brain. I found it to be a parable to me, but nevertheless, let's discuss that shit show that was the final battle.
The final battle, honestly, getting Donyu down was not that hard. Like, I messed up a few times, but honestly, he was a piece of cake. It was just dodging out of the way. When he did his combo, you just go in for the kill and then rinse and repeat until he goes down. But those multi-step QTEs really, I didn't appreciate them. I did not appreciate them.
Shenmue 2 added some really interesting mechanics to the QuickTime events, but they also, the game seemed to rely so much more heavily on them compared to the first.
Yes. In Shenmue 1, I feel like they were like, oh, something's going to happen. And it was also a lot more like, open-ended, so you could fail a QuickTime event and it would actually change the plot of the game.
Right.
Whereas in Shenmue 2, like, they would just make you redo it over and over and over again until you got it right.
Just stop you like a sack of bricks. Yeah. I wasn't fond of that when I played it in the game back in the day. And I definitely felt really bad for you because I don't feel like it's not like you were being purposefully bad. It just the barrier was so much higher this time. And I can't also tell you how many times I saw QuickTime events in Shenmue 2 that I honestly thought this needs to be a dialogue path of some kind. This needs to be a fight. This doesn't need to be a QuickTime event. And this is probably part of the reason that Shenmue made QuickTime events the meme that they are now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like Shenmue was one of the first games to do QuickTime events, and they managed to also make people want to forget QuickTime events. So.
Yeah. That final fight was some bullshit. There just seemed, I think, like I said earlier, how Shenmue 2 is kind of a distillation of Shenmue 1's parts, where like in the first game, a lot of it was new and they're still trying to figure out what to do with this stuff and make it play nice. And I feel like the first game really focuses on really just giving you the experience, but throwing in these little tools like the fighting and the QuickTime events just to add some character to the game. But 2 really just wants to nail it down. Like they want to really flesh out these mechanics, but they end up overusing them in ways that take you out of the immersion. And that's not just for the QuickTime events, but there's a lot more fighting in Shenmue 2, which is not a bad thing per se. I think that would have been okay to a point. But I think maybe in some cases it goes just a little bit too far. I understand, like he's in a foreign country and it's not safe, and he's pursuing a criminal who is surrounded by all kinds of criminal elements. This is not a safe journey to take. It does stand to reason that you need to fight, especially in a game that touts itself as being a spiritual successor to Virtua Fighter. So not mad about that. It's just a little much at times, and the QuickTime events definitely were too much. I
did not appreciate the fights where they zoomed into that really weird half first person, half second person over the shoulder, but not really, because it was still kind of first person view, like when you were fighting through the Beverly Hills Wharf. Like that was so confusing and hard to like gauge how close you were to properly hit.
Right.
And that was definitely a pain. And I didn't really have too much to gripe about when it came to the QuickTime events, but like the I don't know what the term is for them, like the complex QuickTime events where you hit directionals and then face buttons.
Yeah.
I could only see one or the other. I could only see which like directions to hit, and I could see which face buttons to hit, but I could not see like both of them at the same time. So I would like to say, while I have this moment, thank you to everyone in chat who posted those in chat so I could see, so for the next time, and not make an ass out of myself and not keep you there forever doing the same thing over and over again. I really appreciate you.
We do have a great community here. You guys are mentions. We love doing this for you. That's one of the reasons for sure. I would have done so myself sooner, except a part of me, I didn't remember right if they were randomized at times or if they were always the same input. But yeah,
they're always the same.
Well, thank you, chat, for being the real MVP. Wow.
And they're only helping themselves because it helps me get through the game faster for them. So.
Yeah, same, Grimace, same. So, did you have did I miss anything that you really wanted to talk about Shenmue to get off your chest here?
No, I had my Doolin rant, so I'm happy.
Nice. Well, I'm happy to hear it. So, very nice. Man, I can't believe Delin and Ryo are just fighting like that. That's not the Shenmue that I remember. Anyway, I'm digressing. So I told you that I have some thoughts about Shenmue, and I'm not here to clickbait anybody into thinking one thing and saying another. So I do have some thoughts, and you really did cover a lot of the things that I was saying in a broader scope. So really, I guess I'll just take my time here and just really hammer home the things I really liked, the things that I really didn't like, the things that left me scratching my head, and just overall how this game made me feel about the series as a whole. I do think that distillation of Shenmue's elements is not a bad thing always. I think having the chance to better understand that these systems that they built and really just go to town on it, it shows. Like, they laid a lot of groundwork in Shenmue 1 that they successfully built on in 2. I chose that opening song as one of my Team Valiant Gamers picks because it takes a lot to up the feeling that Shenmue 1 gave you. Because coming into that, just seeing your father get killed and just be left in the wake of that, figuring out what to do next. It's one of my favorite game intros of all time. Shenmue 2 doesn't quite reach that mark, but it's very close. Just having that bombastic music of leaving Japan, and coming to this wholly foreign country, you feel it. The game is so good at making you feel just as out of place as Ryo feels. And from the get-go, I was enraptured and ready to go. Wandering around Hong Kong and Kowloon and the Chinese countryside, for the most part, yeah, it feels effective. It really puts you in that time and place. And once again, Shenmue has this ability as a series to make you feel wildly nostalgic for places that you probably haven't been. Because I haven't been to Japan, and I haven't been to China. And, you know, I was born right about the time that this game takes place. And yet I feel that sting of nostalgia in me just a little bit, which is a testament to the scriptwriters of this game and just the environment that they set up for us.
Yes.
And I enjoyed it. I really did. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed Rin. Even though Rin is a little bit slow to grow on you, he's kind of an asshole. I really did come to like him. And now that I know, thanks to you guys, that he's played by the same voice actor as oh god, what's his name? Fukusan, yeah, Fukuhara-san. And just that gives it a whole new dimension there of like, what if like you came back to Japan and like Fukusan was just crushing puss, man, and just like flushing money, you know, a real karate star. And
well, as soon as Ryo leaves Japan, like Fukusan becomes the best. So, you know.
Yeah, of course. He doesn't have any competition there. He could really shine, and you get back, and he's just suffering from success. I love that. That's a good testament to his voice actor, too, because those two characters couldn't be more different, and yet somehow he nails them both. And again, a lot of the things that I liked about Shenmue 1 are just as true for Shenmue 2. There's just that jankiness to the way people speak and communicate with each other that sometimes is so oblivion, and it's what's the word I'm looking? And it's just what the fuckiness. Like who talks like this? But there's something about that that's so unforgettable and charming, and it makes me smile. Like, it doesn't offend me, it doesn't hold back my gameplay in any way, but it just like, I don't know. It's just no other games like it in that regard. And Shenmue 2 carries the torch.
It's very endearing.
Yeah, and again, it's just Shenmue 1 was already this huge game, and Shenmue 2 is somehow just even bigger. All these details that you see in the signage, like, you can tell they've done a lot of work in just pushing this engine to the limits and the Dreamcast to the limits. And I love to see it. Like, I really do. I think in a lot of regards it's really successful. Again, though, where it's not successful is just this burdensome over-reliance on quick-time events. It's just too much. And I already said it. I'm just repeating myself here. Some of these things needed to be fights, and some of them just needed to be a little more expository. And Shenmue 1 was so good about that, about leaving these little threads hanging, and if you wanted to just get past them, fine. But if you really wanted to pick at them, you could see all these great little details. And though the world looks bigger, I found the world of Shenmue 2 just a little less interactable than Shenmue 1. I mean, some things you could just pick up and look at them for no purpose whatsoever. It's just that they were there. And I don't know if they...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I think I mentioned that during one of the streams. This is like, the world is bigger, but like Hong Kong itself is so much smaller than Dobuido in terms of what you can actually do in the world, whether it's opening up drawers or looking at items or, you know, finding things to collect. It's smaller but bigger, or bigger but smaller, I guess.
Yeah, like it's bigger in ways where you have more interactable NPCs on the street. You could do things like they can take you to a place, you just follow them. That is a little more immersive, but again, just not being able to more closely look at things, whether you need to or not, was missing. And I have to wonder if that was just based on feedback that they got from the first game.
Yeah.
where it's like people were just not interested in that meandering, but really just wanted to, hit the ground running and just do the things that Shenmue is best at. Okay, fair enough. Some people may not just like to wander, and when they play a game, they want to get to point A to be faster. And if that's the case, then Shenmue 2 is successful, but I feel like it loses just a little something in that process.
I feel like I liked the reliability of people's schedules. Like you could, in Shenmue 1, you could go down Dobuita and you could see someone at 12 o'clock looking at this store, and you know that character will be there at 12 o'clock tomorrow because they go to that store at 12 o'clock every day, or whatever it happens. People have schedules. In walking through the streets of Hong Kong, I just feel like there were just random people walking randomly down random streets.
Right.
And it's almost like a random generated, believe it or not, like a random encounter. So,
I do know a thing or two about such matters. and Grimace raises a really great point. I mean, if you imported this game, or maybe you weren't paying close attention to the gaming news, it might have caught you by surprise that Sega was floundering in the hardware department. But I have to imagine that this stuff was hanging over the development team. So I get it that they need to get something out, because Sega's fortunes are not looking good, and if they don't do it now, it's never. So is it better to have a game that's got a couple of extra little nagging flaws and get it out, or just not have a game at all? I would say it's the former. Easy. But there's still complaints. I'm going to have them just because that's the perception I have playing this game. It was then, and watching you play through it again, I still felt the same way. And lastly, that ending was a slap in the face, but not like necessarily in a bad way. It was just like having cold water thrown in your face, where I should have seen the signs that, this was going to turn into something a little spiritual and metaphysical, and yet it just caught me completely by surprise and back in the day. And then to end your game on that note, not knowing that you're not going to see this storyline advance for another 15 years. A year passed, and I was like, fine. And then we're where by this point? Sega's having to pivot and act quick, or there may not be a Sega. So I understand, okay, it's not coming out this year, that's fine. 2 years, okay, cool. And then 2 years turns to 3, turns to 4, turns to 5, and then by about past year 5, I'm like, this isn't happening. And it put a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth, where I'm like, I get it. I'm sure, I don't think that Yu Suzuki's intention was to bait the entire world into a story that never gets done. I don't think any creative author wants to set out to do that.
George R. R. Martin.
That's a whole other conversation, right? But it was disappointing. I can empathize with the creator just trying to get their story told as best as they can. But as the viewer, I this feeling that I have is still valid, where it's like, I wish that there had been a better plan in place to keep this series going and at least try to finish it. So it was a little disappointing, and it kind of put a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth, and coupled with those other things. Doesn't mean that I don't enjoy Shenmue 2. I do. I still very much do, and would love to play it again myself at some point. But then, we get this great news that Shenmue 3 is a possibility. Oh shit, it's getting funding. It looks like it's finally going to happen. And it did happen. And, I don't think it's fair to try to hold the game's meta against it. I think it really should stand on its own merits, but again, that's just my bias. It does. And the fact that Shenmue was given that new lease on life, and Suzuki still didn't finish the story is a little baffling to me. So I'm going to do my best to appreciate Shenmue 3 as best I can and try to put that out of my mind, because I want to give it a fair shot. And I hope that he finishes this game one day to satisfaction.
Yeah. There's a whole fan base out there who, like, to this day, like, I was just seeing they did one not too long ago. They did another fan rally to try to get Shenmue 4 going. So there are people actively wanting Shenmue 4 to happen.
Sega, I'm sorry, that I get it. Like, if that happens, if that gets us another Shenmue game, fantastic. But, I could maybe have justified this argument several years ago when Sega's still trying to find its way. But as far as I could tell, and if somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like Sega's in a good place now. Like, they're not making hardware anymore, but they are still a successful software developer. And they still have clout. They're making good games. Why can't they work with Yu Suzuki to give this game the support that it deserves? I mean, I genuinely don't know. Like, why are we still having to do fan-backed funding for this sort of thing? Because again, I am more likely to back Shenmue 4 than Shenmue 3. I still don't like crowdsourcing though, because for every win that's come out of crowdsourcing, we've had a lot of losses. Looking at you, Star Citizen.
I would like to say that when I say there are Shenmue 4 rallies, I'm not talking about crowdfunding specifically. As far as I know, they're trying to get Sega to do it. As far as I know, they're trying to rally fans to tell Sega, hey, you need to do this. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and Suzuki's not getting any younger. I just please give us Shenmue 4, and please finish your story. That's all that I ask.
I'm surprised that they haven't done that even in like books or something. Like, just finish the story, and then if you can make a game of it, cool. But like, just at least tell the story, have it out there. But yeah, no, I wish that things were different, and I wish that Sega had been like, yes, this series was good to us. Yu Suzuki for over the years has been good to us and has made some good games for us. We'll give him the leeway to do what he wants and needs to do. I wish that had happened, but it didn't. So I will take what I can get, but I still don't want to look at it be like, well, I'll take what I can get even if it's crap. I still do have things that I expect.
Right.
And I'm actually just very interested in seeing what everyone thinks when I play Shenmue 3.
I'm very interested, and I hope you guys tune in for it too. It's going to be a lot of fun. But until we get there, we're almost there. I do have another month of games coming up for you guys. I'll talk about that here in just a moment. Give you a chance, Nicole, to take a breath and let somebody else do the gaming for a change. But if you had to put a neat number on what you thought of Shenmue 2, what would that number be?
I would have to say I would give it... I've been dancing between a 3.75 and a 4 all day.
A 3.5 is okay. Don't... She loves those 25s and 75s.
I do. But I will say I'll give it a 3.5. No, I'll give it a 3.75. Fuck you. Anyway.
Wow.
You can't tell me what to do. But no, yes, I give it a Doolin out of 10.
I like this rating system even better. We'll go with that. I'm pretty sure that I gave Shenmue 1 a 4. I think it is easily one of the best games on the Dreamcast, and Shenmue definitely has an important place in gaming history. And I thought that a 4 was a fair way of assessing that. And I still think Shenmue 2 is a great game. I enjoyed it more than I didn't. Minus its issues that got under my skin, and the greater picture of the Shenmue series as a whole, I would go with a 3.5. I think in some ways it's a little bit of a step back from the first game, just solely because they give us this wide open world of China, and I wish, for reasons that you discussed, and flesh it out just a little bit more. Yeah. But like Grim has said, they were kind of under the gun to get something out there or nothing at all. So better that they gave us this than nothing. Yes,
I would agree with that. But I will give it a 3.75. I gave the first Shenmue, I believe, a 4.25 because I do love those 0.25s. Again, fuck you.
Wow.
And it's just because I loved the world of Shenmue, but I didn't have as much fun in Shenmue 2, mostly because of the quick time events, and also because I didn't have that sense of nostalgia that I did in Dobuita.
Agreed 100% on both counts.
Hong Kong was really cool. Kowloon was really cool. But I didn't get that feeling of like, oh man, I feel like I'm back on my house when I was growing up, and I like just that sense of nostalgia, just like, oh, I'm home, you know. And it was missed, but there are other things that make it great, and I am in love with the Shenmue series. This is probably one of my favorite series of all times, and it's worth playing, and I will play it again. I know I will. So
for sure, and same here. But thank you for bringing it to us. Loved watching the stream. I can't wait to watch Shenmue 3 because I want to dispel some of these notions I have and just see what I've been missing out on. Because again, I'll take more Shenmue any way that I can get it. I do love this world, and I want to see more of it.
I think you'll be pleased.
So yeah. So I did tell you guys last month that I was probably going to start scaling my presence back on streams because I've got some things that I need to focus on. And yet I just don't know when to quit because I want to play another series of games, and I want to share these games with you and hope that you guys get as much enjoyment or some of the enjoyment that I do. But I'll be giving Nicole a break next month. I'll be hopping in and sharing with you guys the Uncharted Waters series. We've talked a little bit during our streams about Koei games. Again, another thread that you and I share. Koei games they're interesting. I'll put it that way. They tried to distill these really interesting points of history into gameplay modes that are both innovative and sometimes a little frustrating for the casual gamer. Their bread and butter back in the day were the Romance of the Three Kingdoms and Nobunaga's Ambition series. Both of those both great games taking place in ancient China and medieval Japan, and really just trying to take those points of history and distill them down into a video game form, which is very strategy oriented and heavy information digestion, and they're not for everybody. Uncharted Waters, on the other hand, has a little bit of that Koei jankiness of just giving you lots of information and maybe you're not sure where to go. But this takes place in the age of exploration as Europe is starting to branch out and explore the rest of the world, which I find totally fascinating. All of its problems and everything, I still find it fascinating, and I in particular think Uncharted Waters New Horizons, which we will also be playing, is probably one of my favorite games of all time. And I want to share these games with you. I'll just warn you now, they'll probably be a little chill in some places and maybe even a little bit slow, but I encourage you to give them a chance and tune in because I'll definitely at the very least be bringing Uncharted Waters 1 and 2 to you guys. I might even find some time to bring Uncharted Waters Online to you.
Nice.
So stick around. We've got another great month of gaming for you. And then once we get through that, Nicole's going to be back for Shenmue 3, and I'm very excited for it.
Yes. I think that with this community and what we love to do in keeping chat interesting, we can insert some and maybe a few.
Son, do I look gainfully employed to you?
Love it.
And maybe even
But that's all, and all that is fine and good, but do you have any glory in your heart?
Actually, shit, I don't have that one set up. Hold on.
Okay. That's really disappointing, Nicole. If anybody I expected to find some glory, yes! Thank you.
So, We will
just
keep things interesting.
You just had to dig into your heart to find all that glory. There's like a special little hole in your heart that you keep all that glory. Your glory hole, as it were.
Yes, deep in my glory hole. But no, I'm actually really looking forward to this because I love the Koei games. I love Romance of the Three Kingdoms. I love Nobunaga's Ambition, but I don't know too much about Uncharted Waters, so I am very interested to see.
I can't wait.
This.
I can't wait. Koei games inspired in me a lot of historical curiosity. Romance of the Three Kingdoms really fueled that interest and curiosity about China that carried on until getting to see some more of that side of China through Shenmue. So in a way, we're kind of coming full circle on some things. Uncharted Waters, I promise you, even if you don't like watching the games have great music. And that's one of the things that brings us here to this community. We love our game music. We will have some fantastic selections for you. So if you watch for no other reason, tune in for that. But I will do my best to provide context where it may be wanting, because I find this time in history very fascinating. The whole world changed for everyone in the Columbian Exchange and the Age of Exploration, and in good ways and in bad ways. But we will discuss those things and explore the world together next month with Uncharted Waters.
I definitely want to be, as long as you are up for it, I definitely want to be in chat with you, because I feel like us both geeking out over like the Age of Exploration and history and stuff like that will be entertaining content.
Fair enough. I think we can make that happen. So guys, thank you so much for coming to our latest Post-Mortem. We're just a day shy of New Year's Eve, so I'll see you guys next year. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday. Hope you have been having a wonderful Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever it is that you celebrate. I hope it's been a good one. Hope you have a happy new year, and we all wish you a happy new year here at Valiant Gamers.
Happy New Year.
All right, you guys have a wonderful night. We will see you next time.
Have a good night.